those of you that are just joining in just now, thank you very much for joining what is our inaugural online convention. We did start off our history in 2018 and we started that off in Inverness with a 2-day event, and then last year we were in Carnoustie. So like everybody else, we were going to have to be online this year, but I'll come back to that a bit in a minute. Housekeeping rules are on the mug in front of you, so yeah, please mute yourself. The sessions will be recorded and I'll get Amy to start the recording, but we will not be recording the workshops. Use the chat box all the time to introduce yourself, chat, ask questions. It's all about thinking positively and sharing ideas. So welcome. And I must say, to those of you that haven't met me before, I'm Jenny Milne. I'm your host for the day, and I sound like I'm on the BBC. I'm sorry. I am your host, and I will introduce your chair for the sessions, Alex Reid, later on. So I have a big background in rural. Not only do I live rural, I've got 15 acres of land. I do a part-time PhD on rural mobility as a service, and I've worked in intelligent transport solutions for over 2 decades now, and rural is me. So any questions, I will try and answer them, and if I don't know the answer, I will know somebody that does. So, ta-da! For those of you that have been with us through the journey of SRITC for the last 2 years, we now have a logo. For those of you who are new, this is our logo. So thank you very much to the team at 42 for helping us pull together the logo. As I said, we started off in 2018. We're all volunteers, and I've got a team of musketeers who you will get to meet behind the scenes that have helped me since we founded this. I'm lucky to have some of the team from 2018 and 2019 still with us on this journey, so thank you. For those on the left that have seen this before, the cake, we have cafes, we have BYOC, bring your own cake, not cocaine, as somebody asked me once, and we run the cafes once or twice a month, and we usually bring cake. And I know that some of the people that signed up are actually from bakeries, so maybe we can get some cake delivered or some bigger cake displays given to us at a future cafe. On the right, I put a jigsaw there. That's really how I see rural mobility, and I'm hoping that SRITC will help everybody with this jigsaw, because there's so many parts to it. It's very complicated, and we need to work together. So for me, this is a really important part. The irony of today is that we're actually talking about digital technology and connectivity. And what are we all doing? Probably sitting in a rural area. Some will be in a more urban area, I admit. We're using digital technology, and we're looking at how to connect together using that digital connectivity. So I did think that's a bit of an irony that we've always complained about connectivity and digital elements in rural, but yet here we are doing it all online, which is great. Let's make sure it continues. So today, without further ado, I need to thank our supporters. We have two new supporters to SRITC. We've got 42 and we have Viavan. Without them, some of what's been happening would not have taken place, quite pure and simple. So thank you very much. We have session 1, which is what we're about to kick off with just now. And that is looking at island mobility. And we will hope to finish that by 10:30. Then, in usual Jenny fashion, if you've not met me before, this will come as a bit of a surprise to you. We will be doing a bit of an activity during your breaks. I will get you moving and you will not be in front of your Zoom. We will then reconvene for a session about innovation and rural mobility. And then again, we will stop for a break. But the good news for you guys is it's 5 minutes and 5 core slides for our speakers, and then we'll have a discussion panel. So we really want to get you involved. And then the end of the day, we are going to be having a workshop, and you'll be divided into groups of about 10 with a facilitator, and that will run from 11:50 to about 1 o'clock. Obviously, give or take a few minutes on these timings, but that gives you a rough idea of what we're doing today. So I'm now going to stop talking because you don't need to hear from me anymore. You are having your chair, Alex Reid, who you should see on the video in front of you. And you have 4 speakers just now, and I'm really privileged that we've got the Scottish Government coming to speak to us in the form of Cameron and Dawn. Dawn is one of the original 2018 SRITC helpers, was really key to running it, but they are both now very important for our island communities. So I will let them introduce themselves, and then Alex is going to take over, and he is one of my core, if not most important person, sorry to my musketeers, behind the scenes. Alex helped me last year with the Connected Places Catapult run the convention, and without Alex, I can definitely categorically tell you this wouldn't have happened. So over to Cameron. I will stop sharing my screen, and the team that are going to be there for your next session. Cameron.
Morning all, just as Cameron's getting fired up with his slides, just feel free, I'm sure you're very good at this already, having done it for months, but post questions in the chat box as the presentations go along. We'll keep track of them, and we'll try and make sure that when it gets to the discussion panel, we ask as many of them as possible, and so therefore hopefully you get what you want in terms of responses.
Hello, good morning everyone. That was quite an introduction from Jenny, saying they're honoured to have us here without hearing us speak first. I'm Cameron Anson from the Scottish Government Islands team, joined by Don Morrison today as well. I'm going to give just a quick introduction about who the Islands team are, what we do, and then Don's going to take you through the consultation for the National Islands Plan, and then I'm going to finally wrap up just with a wee bit about transport commitments within the National Islands Plan. So I'm relatively new to Scottish Government. I joined on secondment from an organisation called Rural Housing Scotland in January of just this year, with the aim of helping the team deliver on the National Islands Plan. So my background is in housing, not in transport, so this is more of a learning experience for me as well. The team expanded to 7 at this time, and we all lead on specific strategic objectives within the plan. We've split up the island authorities between us so that we can be the main point of contact. So one of the key roles of the team is providing a sort of easy access to Scottish Government for our island communities and stakeholders, so they can get in touch with us and we can help them find the relevant people within Scottish Government. So I'm the lead within the team for Argyll and Bute. I also lead on the strategic objectives of population, housing and fuel poverty, and transport. And Don can give a bit about his strategic objectives and the local authority he leads on as well. Obviously, a lot of the work on delivering on the National Islands Plan was interrupted by this pandemic you might have noticed happening. So we were quickly repurposed to be sort of information gatherer and again point of contact to hear about how our communities are being impacted on and how they're dealing with the impacts of coronavirus. We're happy to now be picking up on our sort of more business as usual work, and that brings us again back into this convention. We're delighted to be here, and hopefully actually hear a lot from our stakeholders as well, which will be a big benefit to us. So I'll just hand over to Don to run through the Islands Plan consultation and the Islands Plan.
Cameron, we can't see your slides.
There's no presentation there.
Oh, it says I'm sharing the screen.
No,
yeah,
I can see your desktop, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we can't see the slides, just your desktop. Just And
for reference, it was working before we started.
Open it up. Just open it up.
Alex, do you want to open it up?
I've been staring at my slides the whole time.
Alex, would you like to pull them up?
Yeah, I'm just going to put them up, and I'll just go into screen share, right? So.
Sorry about that, folks. Don, which slide would you like them starting at?
Probably the outline, so just go to the second one.
Everybody see that now?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Do it from here. Okay, on you go.
Good morning, everybody. As Jenny was saying, I'm Don Morrison. I was fortunate enough to be involved in the very first Rural Transport Convention, It was great working with Jenny and the team back then. It's even more impressive to see how it's evolved since way back in 2018. So it's a fantastic event. Hopefully everyone will enjoy the next couple of days. As Cameron was saying, I'm part of the Islands team now. I'm very fortunate to be part of the Islands team as an islander myself. So my background, I'm from Stornoway. I moved to Uist. I worked in Uist for about 7 or 8 years, so I've got strong connections to the Western Isles. I tend to call Uist home, and much to my my mother's dismay, she's very adamant at reinforcing the fact I'm actually from Stornoway. She never really takes keen to the fact that I refer to Uist at home as home. But as an islander, I feel really fortunate to be part of the Islands team, leading on the implementation of the Act. So I suppose you can't really talk about the National Islands Plan without first talking about the Islands Act. So the Act was granted royal assent way back in July 2018, with the first set of regulations coming into force in October 2018. And the first set of provisions at that time included development of the National Islands Plan. So we had 12 months basically from October 2018 to consult and publish the National Islands Plan. Again, a little bit more legal jargon there, or legislative jargon there in terms of the Act. Now, I'm by no means a lawyer or anything like that, but it's probably always worth taking back to the Act. So the purpose of preparing, Section 3.2 of the Act, the purpose of preparing a National Islands Plan is to set out the main objectives and strategy of the ministers in relation to improving outcomes. So I had to dig out the Act myself this morning to remind myself of Section 3. So it lists a kind of non-exhaustive list of potential improved outcomes for islanders. So part of the purpose of going out and doing our consultation was to add to that list. There were key things such as population levels, improving and promoting economic development, well-being, and community empowerment. So the plan sets out Scottish Government objectives and strategies that relate to the improvement of outcomes of island communities, and the plan identifies outcomes that need to be improved and the objectives and strategies through which ST will improve such outcomes. So in terms of the consultation, the Act itself requires that we should make, we needed to make it as an extensive a consultation as we possibly could. Our Islands Minister, Mr. Paul Wheelhouse, he really encouraged us to make it as extensive as possible. Again, getting back to the Act itself, anyone who's been on an island understands that not only are islands different to the mainland, they're very different to one another, and their needs are very different to one another. So there's that unique element to each island. Not only is it different to the mainland, but it's different to each island. So we set out on a kind of more traditional online consultation. We had a great response. There's the wee bullet point there compares to, so we've had 414 respondents to our consultation, and there was 192 respondents to the bill, which is great really for us. We, along with our delivery partners who were fantastic, Scottish Islands Federation and Strathclyde Centre for Environmental Law and Governance, we set out on a well, it was a great experience for us, but it really helped us to get some really rich data and rich information to build and develop our National Islands Plan. So we've done 61 events across 40 islands. The consultation was launched by the Minister on the 6th of April on the Isle of Canna, and I finished it, I think it was the 17th of July in Leave-a-Borough-Havis. So the next slide really gives a flavour of where we've been to, basically from Arran all the way up to Unst. That's basically the list of where we've been to. So the process itself, we wanted to make it as get as much kind of feedback as we possibly could, and make it as participatory as we possibly could. Really try and engage with the community. So we gave a series of discussion rounds, space for participants to share what works well on the island, before really getting into the challenges that are faced by islands. And then we kind of went into, as the event moved on, we went into a discussion round which offered participants really to delve deep into the challenges and come up with solutions themselves. We were really looking for the island communities. They're the ones who know their islands best, come back to us with solutions. We were very aware of consultation fatigue, so we wanted to create a kind of feedback loop. We committed to gather data from, or gather everything that was discussed at each event, noting it down and creating a feedback loop that we sent back the report straight back to all our consultees or everybody who came to the event, asking them to, tell us, did we capture everything? Did we interpret everything right? Was there anything we missed? And then that document was then published. It's publicly available on the Strathclyde website. So that was a tangible document for everybody to say, well, look, I was there. This is what was said. Now go and act on it. So it was about building a relationship early on with the islands communities, between the islands and the islands team. You're skipping through some of the pictures there, but it's fine. Gives you a flavour of our discussions. The one on the left there was an egg. Again, there's pictures there of school children, so we're very keen to engage with the young. But that was a fantastic event. The one on the right there, I believe that's Mull, and it looks like Sandy Brunton to me, who I think is actually on the call today. So Sandy was part of our delivery team as well, through the Scottish Islands Federation. Just before I pass on to Cameron, the two pictures there with the post-it notes. Sorry, Alex, you're doing a grand job. So what we did there was we tried to always link it back to the Act. So we had headings across the top of all the outcomes listed at part 3 of the Act. We got the old magic sticky dots out, asked people which topics or outcome they would like to discuss in greater detail on that night. Sandy, yeah, thank you. You're distracting me. And that, just for the purpose of that night, it was more often than not, all these topics are connected and integrated, but just for that night, we wanted people to come up with solutions for things such as increasing population levels, identify the challenge, give us some details, give us some solutions, what next steps, and who. More often than not, Scottish Government or local authorities got the rap in terms of who should solve these issues. But it was a real opportunity for islanders just to tell us the solutions. They're the ones who know their islands best. So that's a flavour of the consultation. I don't want to tread on anything Cameron might say, but so the crux of it was the National Islands Plan was published on the 27th of December 2019 on the back of all that consultation and feedback. So I'll pass over to Cameron, who will talk about the transport element.
Cheers, Don. Cheers. Thanks, Alex, for stepping in as well. So I'll not actually read through these points. I hope folk can see them. But the big question is obviously why a specific focus within the National Islands Plan on transport, which is tying in with why we're here today. There are obvious reasons, there's justifications given, and lots of our communities explained why transport's important to them, but why is it specifically in the plan? And the big why is at the bottom there. The big answer is because this plan reflects the key priorities and the concerns of our island communities, and transport was highlighted as one of the most important aspects of providing sustainable or supporting sustainable island communities, and that's why it's there. So we have 12 commitments within Strategic Objective 3, and this, like I said earlier, this is one of the ones that I'm leading on, so again, delighted to be here and hopefully pick up a lot of good points from everybody else here. We're always looking to hear from others, and possibly the first commitment within Strategic Objective 3 is the best example of what we're wanting to do and why we're doing it, and it's picking up on almost the very essence of why the islands team is here, and that's island proofing, making sure that those things that impact on our island communities, those things that are integral to our island community sustainability, fully take into account their needs and their specific concerns, and that's what we're here to do. We're, like I said, we're picking up on this stuff just now. We're rapidly trying to pick up again and catch up after the disruption of the last 6 months. I have to make it clear that we're the islands team. We're not transport policy within Scottish Government, so we have to be careful here. Our role is to make sure that all policies across Scottish Government fully take into account islands. So whilst we can't actually lead specifically on a transport element, what we can do is make sure that any information, any ideas, any particular issues from our islands can be fully considered by those policy colleagues that do lead on transport elements and other elements within the plan. I'm aware that there are other speakers. I don't want to keep everybody too long. I think most useful thing for us being here is just to be here as a point of contact. So please do get in touch throughout the day, or there's the email address there. I'm going to pass on to the next speaker, who is Rabina Barton, and thanks everybody for listening so far.
Thank you, Cameron. So Rabina, fingers crossed, if you're able to screen share now and bring up your slides. Yay,
Yes,
there we go.
are we there?
Works like a dream. So go for it, Rabina.
Okay, good morning everybody. Thank you for having me here today. Thank you, Jenny. So my name's Rabina Barton. I'm the Transport Policy and Projects Officer for Shetland Islands Council and the ZTrans Regional Transport Partnership. My background is not transport. I moved to Shetland in 2006 to coordinate an archaeology project, and then spent about 12 years working in heritage and tourism before moving bizarrely into transport. My first visit to Shetland would have been in 1977, the year I was born. I have family here, and Shetland would have looked very different then, because Shetland society and economy has been massively affected by the discovery of North Sea oil in the late 1970s. Now, I'm just trying to share there we go. So for those of you who don't know, Shetland is kind of at a crossroads of the North Atlantic. It's actually, our main port in Scotland, Aberdeen, is the same distance from us as Bergen in Norway. So we have a very Scandinavian feel, and we're actually part of Scandinavia up until 1469, when we were pawned to Scotland. There are about 100 Shetland islands, but only 15 inhabited. 23,000 inhabitants, 8,000 of those are in the main town of Lerwick, where I live. Another 4,000 sort of in the region just around Lerwick, and the rest are generally much more rural. We have one main road that's two-way traffic that goes up through the centre of the Shetland mainland, but a lot of the other roads tend to be single track, just to put it in context. We have one hospital, we have 2 high schools, 5 junior high schools and just about 22 primary schools, which can vary in size from 100 children to just a handful. So that just gives you, oh, and we've got 1 million breeding seabirds, and I just put that in because Shetland is popular. People visit Shetland for its wildlife, and as I come onto our kind of internal connectivity here, just thought I'd show you a bit of our wildlife. Shetland ponies there, but actually that slide is to illustrate that we do have a high reliance here on the private car. Our transport is a network of ferries, planes and public buses. We have 2 inter-island plane routes between 2. We used to have them going out to more islands, but now they just go to 2 of our islands. We have a ferry service with 15 ferries currently that is actually run by Shetland Islands Council. And then because none of our bus services are actually commercially viable, the council actually funds all the bus services. They go out to tender. But say we do have a very high reliance on the car and higher levels of car ownership than in other parts of Scotland. Externally, to link us to the Scottish mainland, we have the sea route, which you see there on a good day and on a not so good day, which I guess illustrates some of the challenges. And we also have flights to the 4 kind of Scottish airports. So that's Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen and Inverness. So if we want to get anywhere, we have to go via Scotland. And it's worth mentioning, in the summer, sometimes we find that the flights can't go because we get a lot of fog, so people have to use the boats. And in the winter, as you can see, it can be quite choppy. People can't use the boats, so they go on the plane. So you have to be quite flexible, I guess. Shetland's transport-related carbon footprint is quite high, as you can imagine, and compared to the national average, it is actually getting higher, which is not something that we want to continue, which is why we are starting to look to how we can really transform transport in Shetland. We're about to embark on a new regional transport strategy, which is very timely, given that we are in the middle of a climate emergency, given that we have the upshot of the COVID pandemic, and given that we have a lot of inequalities within our society, which we'd like to tackle. So I think that's very timely, and it will have, I think, very central to it, our active travel strategy, which we are just about to sign off. And we have a draft that's going out to public consultation later this year. We've also got Scottish Government funding, for, Spaces for People funding, which is allowing us to trial some interventions to try and encourage more active travel in the light of the COVID pandemic. And we're also undergoing a fare policy review. But I think I'm coming to the end of my time, just to say in Shetland, really, there are so much opportunity. At the moment, our transport is very traditional. It's ferries, planes, buses and cars. So the whole world, I think, of mass is open to us in terms of looking at different transport solutions for to meet particular need, but also looking at the sort of digital journey planning aspects of that as well. Like many island places, we do obviously have the challenge of digital connectivity to grapple with, and I'm sure that'll come up throughout the conference today. But I'll just be very happy, I guess, to listen in to what others have to say and to answer any questions anyone has later. Thank you very much. And I'll hand over now to Jude from Arran.
Thanks, Robina.
Hey, well done. Go for it, Jude.
Almost there. Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. Thank you to Jenny and Alex and team for making this event happen and inviting me along to speak. My name is Jude. I'm the project manager for Arran Ecosavvy. We are an environmental organisation based on the Isle of Arran, just off the west coast of Scotland. I'm also a director of Visit Arran, the destination management organisation here. And most recently, I've been involved in Arran Recovery Group, a group that's come together to see that Arran responds effectively to the COVID crisis and sets ourselves in good stead as we emerge sustainably, responsibly and safely as possible. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Arran Ecosavvy's current activities, a small grassroots environmental organisation, and look towards opportunities for the future. Okay. Picture tells 1,000 words and I have 5 minutes, so I thought I'd throw a few pictures there just to illustrate Arran Ecosavvy's current project streams. We're a very ambitious organisation focusing on waste, energy, travel, food, climate literacy, from food waste schemes with our local co-op to energy focus, helping households implement renewables. But I will talk to you about travel today. Our transport vision for Arran is probably similar to many organisations and people that are a part of this event today. It is that Arran is the island where accessible, affordable, active travel and low carbon transport is the norm, not the exception. Currently on Arran, it wouldn't be outrageous to say that the infrastructure and facilities provided currently, from ferries to buses, really motivate high individual car use. I feel optimistic about achieving this vision, given the attention that we've recently had and how much innovation and strategy is around the future of travel and transport. So I'm going to talk about a few initiatives that we are doing at the moment. So Ecosavvy focuses on 6 main activities as a part of the Sustainable Island Life project funded by the Scottish Government's Climate Challenge Fund. The core theme is the island-wide e-bike scheme. This mostly sees residents benefit from month-long e-bike trials, and the scheme has been hugely popular with an eternal waiting list of requests to use them, and it's delivered those achievements there in the blue bubbles. Another part of the sustainable travel focus is a community lift share scheme. This was successfully launched last year and has 300 members, but unfortunately this is all on hold due to COVID restrictions. Our Savvy travel map has been built through a wealth of local knowledge and will continue to be a community source after the first draft is launched this month. We are in the process of setting up 2 bike maintenance hub points on the island, and we'll have a bike maintenance tool library to ensure that people who have e-bikes or are planning to get bikes are able to maintain them and have confidence in the skills and tools that they have and reduce waste at the same time. Travel events and workshops are a big part of what we do, more so last year when we were able to hold physical events, and it really puts rural and sustainable travel on the map. I probably don't have to explain the benefits of this because that's what we're all benefiting from today. Collaboration with organisations is a really important one for us, as there have been many grassroots projects that have attempted to solve travel and transport issues here on Arran. We are able, through this project, to revive years of historic work, minimise duplication, and a recent feasibility study for the busiest route on Arran from Brodick to Lamlash wouldn't really have happened if it wasn't for our project and the collaboration that's been enabled with the local council and other organisations here. I wanted to touch on how rural transport impacts the economy through these 2 graphs. The first one shows quite starkly how business survival on Arran is at the mercy of very capacity communication around sailings. I'm lucky enough not to have my job being to solve ferry issues, but I thought I'd show that. As mentioned, I'm involved in the recovery group, and we did a survey in June, which 900 people, which is 20% of our island population, answered. It showed that it really shows, the stats there show where travel and transport should be investment should be focused. Gosh, sorry, I'm having a little bit of technical issues. So finally, I know I'm probably committing a PowerPoint crime here by putting so much text on the screen, but what I wanted to show is what the community thought of our transport systems when we asked them to do a community SWOT analysis. As you can see, there's strengths. I wish there were more strengths. There's weaknesses and threats, but mostly there are opportunities. And hopefully by the end of this event, I'll be able to contribute another page of opportunities, given how many amazing people are here and organizations, and focus on the future and innovative solutions to rural and sustainable transport. That's all from me. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to answering any questions at the end. I'm going to pass on to James Buck now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just as Jim's getting his slides fired up, just a reminder for those of you who are paying avid attention, please feel free to post any questions that you have using the chat box. And just as a reminder, the slides that were presented today, appreciate you might not have time to digest them all. Most of them will be available and shareable after the convention. We'll be sending it an email, so don't worry, you will be able to have a closer look at some of the content you're seeing after the convention. Right, Jim, over to you.
Morning everybody, my name is Jim Buck. I'm the Head of Service for Orkney Islands Council with the long titled name of Marine Services and Transportation. Basically I run the harbours, I run the ferries, I run the buses, and I also have island aviation in my remit. So quite a broad remit, and before you worry too much that it sounds a little bit like Shetland, this is one of those times where islands appear to be similar but are completely separate. Up there you can see the islands that we've got. The mainland has Kirkwall on it, what we call the mainland, and then we've got two sections of islands that are separated from the mainland by water. One down to the south, mainly serviced by ferries, and then one to the north. And just giving you an idea of distances, it's almost it's a 4-hour ferry journey up to Kirkwall in the north. And what I have, Highlands and Islands Airport Limited have the main airport at Kirkwall, which is one of our important links back to the Scottish mainland. And from there, I then have 6 island airports, mainly in fact, fully in the north, to run a series of short hops in and out. We're also lucky to have the world's shortest commercial flight between Westray and Papa Westray. It lasts for all of 1 minute and 30 seconds. People have tried to serve lunches on it. Doubtful how much they got. What it does mean, and it is quite a disparate and separate area to serve. It is only served by 2 aircraft. Currently, our transport supplier is Logan Air, who provide that all for us using aging, I think is the best way to put it, Islander aircraft. With 6 seats, so the capacity is pretty limited. We do daily and weekly services, and we do integrate with both the ferries and the buses to try and get that going. But it is difficult. It does provide support to some time-limited cargo coming out from the islands, but with such a small aircraft, you can understand that that's quite limited and very small. You're talking kilos, not tons. In the same way, transport for things like people movement is restricted to 6 people, and some of these aircraft visit more than one island. So there's not much space there for people to go on, and it tends to be used mainly for medical journeys and education journeys, either flying doctors, nurses and teachers out to the islands, or flying patients and students into the mainland. Part of the issue is that's not really sustainable in the long run. We have put a lot of investment into the islands that we've done. So originally those airfields were green field sites, and they now have solid runways. But we now need to look at the future of how we deliver this. With a 2-pronged approach, one of which is fuels. Like everybody else, we're looking to reduce our carbon footprint quite drastically. And we're working with academia and industry, particularly with Cranfield University and a group of people down there who are working on hydrogen and electric craft at Cranfield, but we're also working with hydrogen-based craft as well. In the middle, you see the small craft there. That is actually a hydrogen-powered craft. That's slightly better than the Islander because that can carry 10 people. And they've just really started flying points at the moment. And what we're looking to do is base ourselves as an ideal location to be able to try these technologies. Mainly because we have the ability to keep it quite closed and small, so you can do the smaller initial flights. And unlike the Midwest out in America or Cranfield, not only have we the land, we've also got that land-sea interface to be able to fly over, which comes with its own dedicated issues around CAA and the certification, etc. So by putting ourselves forward as a test flight, we give those who own these aircraft and their testing capability the ability to look at how well it copes in what is quite a difficult flying environment up here. We also have the ability, therefore, to transfer onto the mainland for the longer flights to give that sort of legs issue. And it allows the government and the CAA to work out how they're going to do this, how they're going to commercialise it, but what the checks and balances need to be for it. It links in as well to a wider bit, and on the left you can see offshore H2 hydrogen propulsion unit based around the offshore wind. We have a big problem with marine, as with Shetland. You know, we originally had the build-up of fuels from here, which led to the increasing cash flow into the islands that allows us to develop and continue to support the island's economy, but that is going to run out, and where do we go from there? Luckily, both ourselves and Shetland are blessed with plenty of wind, and certainly with tidal, especially around here in Pentland Firth, and that gives us the opportunity to use that and tap into that to create other fuels, mainly around the sort of hydrogen-based and then into the ammonia-based, which comes on the back of hydrogen to green and ties into the greener marine economy. So not only are we looking at the actual vehicles themselves, we're looking at the supporting infrastructure, the ability to store, produce, deliver, and as part of that, we've already, as an island chain, developed our own hydrogen test plant on the islands, which has shown that it is possible to produce, store, and move it in certain flight. And we have 2 hydrogen fueling points on the island at the moment, and one of our backup generators is hydrogen powered. Just goes to show the commitment we've got. And on the right, you see that commitment is being flown out through major transporters. So those 3 aircraft on the right of this picture are the proposals by Airbus for hydrogen powered aircraft to not only do the short little hops on the private sort of size, but the bigger, more commercial, which we need as well to be able to bring our carbon footprint down commercially. The other, sorry, I've gone the wrong way. Please forgive me. The other side we're looking at is into autonomy. Now this is picking up on that the connectivity side of life. Fixed wing aircraft and aircraft as we currently with them are fine, but you have to run a schedule. And that comes with costs on people, which reduce your ability to run the schedule because you have an inability to push people beyond their limits of what is safe. So we're also looking to create within the islands the ability to foster and encourage autonomy. And the top right of that is something that has actually flown, not commercially, but in a test in Singapore, which is a Velocity, which is an airborne autonomous taxi. It looks a bit like a helicopter, but it is electrical driven, so it ties into the back to the fuels and the electricity and the hydrogen inside of life. But it also allows us to look at the potential for doing on-demand as well as tailored flights. Because one of the biggest concerns we always have is the aircraft never goes at right time for an individual. If we can do it so it becomes an on-demand sort of system, then that's even better. And that goes as well with cargo. The heavier cargo, in fact, all the cargo really goes via ferry. It'd be nice to put some of that into a much more on-demand cargo. And the same side as looks to us with fuel is the ability of the islands, therefore, to act as a test bed, which is a nice, closed, environment that is separate from the mainland and out with the major sort of travel hubs that allows you to look at these technologies and start using them in a commercialised way to meet the needs of people, specifically those of the islanders out there. So we're again looking with industry and academia to promote the use of these and promote the discussion of the policies and the requirements about them, what sort of regulation they will need, how they will need to be looked after, how you use them and how you integrate with the wider policy. Again, this is a start for us, and again, it's looking to encourage people to come up and do these short range trails. And once again, this ties in back into the wider community, into the marine environment, into the offshore wind, where we'd be using sort of autonomous vessels or autonomous aircraft to go and look at these things, provide deliveries to passing vessels, be able to link us into the mainland again. There is a lot of potential here. The bottom left is again, like Velocity on the top right, is that sort of on-demand cargo capability of several tons. So we're looking to go from that kilograms of capability up to tons of capability, which allows us then to be more reactive to a developing economy, and more importantly, put a developing economy into the outer isles where they need it, so you can then bring up the sustainability and maintain that sort of economy and culture and people in the areas where they wish to work. It does very much tie in and sit alongside our alternative fuels service. So we're looking at electric, we're looking at hydrogen again. And as I say, it does unlock that on-demand inter-island travel as well. A little bit more, I think, with our island change than active travel, which is good for on-island. But with a 4-hour ferry transfer at 12 knots, it's very difficult to get active travel to and from. So we see this much more as a sort of the autonomy and the alternative fuels way of delivering that sort of connectivity. That's quite a quick through, and I'm wary of the time, but I'll pass back and on to questions in the forum.
Thank you very much, Jim. That is fantastic. So to everyone now, in fact to our speakers, Jim, you're already on, your webcam's on, your mic's on. Can all of our previous speakers put their webcam and unmute, please? We've got about 10 minutes left before the first break for some relatively brief Q&A for the panelists. So I've been just keeping an eye on the chat to see what questions have been posted. We'll get to them very shortly. Beforehand, I also do have a few pre-prepared questions for our panelists, which we'll start with. Hopefully everyone will find them fairly relevant questions. First question I'd like to start with, it's one for Dawn and for Cameron. You did a good job of explaining the work that's been undertaken recently around the island's consultation. Are you able to identify through the consultation process, is there one common theme or ask that's emerged from the consultation that you've had with different members of island communities, a theme or a question that they're most likely to see addressed by the Scottish Government? So I went for Cameron, for Dawn. Either you can pick it up.
Hi, it's Dawn here. My video doesn't seem to be working. I can fire on without my video. I don't
That's
mind.
fine. On you go.
So yeah, in terms of key themes that came out of the consultation, I'm kind of mindful we're at a transport convention, but it'll not surprise you that some of the key themes would be depopulation, sustainable tourism, economic development, improving transport links, digital connectivity. There's a key emphasis on young people being the future of the islands, if you like. I'll leave Cameron maybe just to touch on some of the transport elements of things, but I think from an island perspective, and again, I've got the Act in front of me here listing the outcomes in the Act that we're trying to improve. Everything is linked. It's almost got that kind of domino effect. You kind of sort one, it connects to the other. So if you connect or you improve digital connectivity, it can have knock-on impact on transport and everything else. Also housing, again, Cameron will be a better placed than me to talk about affordable housing, but to say there was one particular ask, probably not. There was a lot of key themes that came out, but I probably can't emphasize enough that they're all integrated from an island's perspective. They're all linked, they all connect to one another. So it's digital connectivity connects to tourism, economic development, housing, transport, everything. I don't know if you can add to that, Cameron.
I just want to keep it brief, just conscious of a little bit of tight in time. So
sorry, yeah, sorry.
That's okay, Don. So Cameron, you just very briefly, you want to add to that?
Yeah, no bother. So just picking up on transport side of it in particular, out of all of that, possibly would be the sort of catch-all that folks said that they just wanted integrated transport services that are fit for purpose for their islands. That was the key thing, just making sure that folk can commute to and from islands.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Thank you very much for that. I think it'll probably resonate with many people that this integration of different transport modes is clearly one of the bigger challenges consistently, and one that continues to remain so as well. Move on to a question that was posted by Ranald Robertson from HiTrans. Ranald's never shy of asking a question or two. This is actually one back to Don and Cameron, and it's related to data. So rich data, you talked a little bit during your presentation. So how supportive have transport providers and publicly funded or otherwise been in terms of sharing data to help inform mobility strategies? I appreciate you guys aren't transport experts, but have you got a kind of common view on the willingness and ability for data to be shared for the greater good?
So yes, we're to go all civil servant on you. We're not transport, so we do have to watch for this. But we do obviously have quite a close relationship with Transport Scotland colleagues because of the island's elements, and certainly through coronavirus. So more in the sort of response to coronavirus, we were getting quite a lot of information, or finding that Transport Scotland colleagues were able to access quite a lot of information about demand and about capacity and all of this of the operations that they're in. We meet with local authorities that operate internal ferries as well to discuss things like this. So there is some willingness there, because we're quite new to obviously focusing on the transport side of it, and we're only just picking this up. As far as how that then helps us deliver transport services going forward, I'm not sure at the moment. We were just starting to have those initial conversations when the pandemic hit, but yes, through our colleagues in Transport Scotland, we have had some quite good access to data there.
That's great, thank you very much. And just a general question for the other panelists. Through the duration of COVID, obviously there's been many ups and downs. Are you able to identify one positive transport-related initiative that has created benefit for the community during the COVID period? Maybe if I start with Jude on that one. Have you seen anything happening in Arran that has enabled the community to come stronger together, particularly with transport as part of the solution?
Yeah, there's been lots of positive things happening in sustainable transport through COVID, which everyone will be aware of. But I would say that cycling and the e-bike revolution really has been a real positive, not just for the obvious low carbon benefits, we are in a climate crisis, but more so as well for the health benefits. And we hired our e-bikes to NHS workers and volunteers through the crisis, and we have qualitative and quantitative data that shows how beneficial these were for their mental health as well. And so a continuation of that, it really does take people to experience it to really buy into it, and that's what this has enabled. Also just within people's personal lives, everyone's really embrace the sustainable travel aspect. Another factor is a joined up delivery service with local food organizations on the island. You know, people weren't able to go to the main co-op all the time, so there were more joined up delivery services happening, and just it allowed for the community to come together more collectively. So yeah, lots of positive things. I'll let someone else.
Yeah, okay. Quickly over to Rabina. Have you witnessed anything specifically on the Shetland Islands like that?
Well, obviously there's the active travel side of things, as Jude has said, but also the local deliveries, I think, has been a really good thing in terms of some of the local shops very quickly got their act together and started doing food deliveries to people. It was actually incredible, I think, how quickly they managed to adapt their services to doing that. And I think that bodes well for the future in terms of us thinking more about local supply and demand. While that was going on, in May, the Royal Mail published statistics which suggested that Lerwick had the highest number of deliveries of parcels per head in the UK. Obviously, we'd been relying a heck of a lot on online shopping as well during the pandemic. So I mean, there's good things and bad things, but I think the fact that people started turning to their very local shops, and really that fostered that community spirit was great.
Good, thank you very much, Rabina. And again, just conscious of time, we'll flick through to another question. I think it's very relevant from an accessibility standpoint, and that's it's from Hilary Stubbs, who's participating today. And the question, and I'll just leave it open to one of you to answer quickly, is from a mobility accessibility standpoint, what steps are you taking to make sure that all transport is accessible and inclusive on your particular islands? Has anyone got an example that immediately springs to mind of programs, initiatives that are happening?
I could say as part of our active travel strategy development, we've been very conscious that making things accessible for walking and wheeling can also make things more broadly accessible, to people in wheelchairs and things like that. And so we want to ensure that our strategy for active travel is really active and accessible travel. And I think also the fact that we are now embarking on a new regional transport strategy is really timely, because it allows us to really embed overarching accessibility in everything we do going forward, which I think is hugely important. And at the moment in Shetland, there isn't a kind of a single voice that represents the disabled community, if you like. There's a number of different individuals who are very vocal and very helpful, but it can be quite hard to get that shared understanding of what's needed. But that's what we're focusing on now, is making sure we know who to talk to and how to communicate on these things.
Okay, great, thanks. And conscious Jim hasn't had a chance to chip in. So Jim, do you have a view on that, the accessibility bit, or just more generally and good stuff that's been happening in Orkney during COVID?
I'd probably going to be the same. No, so I don't think COVID has been very good for island transport at all. Certainly not in our view. If anything, it's restricted people and forced people back into the old habits more. The setup has not been one that's useful. Yes, there's been greater reliance on deliveries, and we've seen that, but all that's done is increased air travel and increase more delivery trucks and vans on the road, which is counter to what it is. I don't think it's been a positive influence at all on any aspect of travel.
Yeah. Okay, good. I mean, it's a good point to raise, Jim, and it's one we'll talk about, I'm sure, as we move forward, because those trends and behaviours are fairly ingrained in irrespective of where you happen to live, and it's one we have to consider, and collaborate and think about how we change those behaviours. So thanks for that. And we are just going to wrap up very shortly, hand back over to Jenny before the first break. Just point you in the direction of the chat box, because Sarah Compton Bishop from HiTrans posted a note. It's not a question, just a note about the work they are doing around an island's passport. So would please, if you are interested in finding out more about that, drop an email to her. Her email address is in the chat box. I think it's a great idea, and one that we should make sure that all islands are participating in, because from a tourism standpoint, it's going to be a critical thing as we move forward to make travel more accessible and simplified across Scotland's islands. So I think that's it. Thank you all to the speakers and the panellists. Hopefully for everyone else, it's been enlightening. We've learned a little bit more about the diversity of the islands we have around Scotland and the different transport challenges they're facing and trying to resolve. Jenny, back over to you and to do a little handover before first coffee break.
Fabulous, thank you guys. And I have to say well done to everybody, because everybody was on an island with different connectivity. So we can do this, we can do this, we can stay connected digitally. Anyway, as you can see, we're slightly running over, as to be expected, but we are going to go for a 10-minute break. So I'll change that from 10:40 to 10:45. But I've got an exercise activity for you, okay? Yes, groan, it's not Blue Peter, but it's something along those lines. Okay, you're going to do a scavenger hunt while you're going to make yourself a cup of coffee and go to the toilet. Okay, you have 2 breaks, one just now, one after the next session. And I want to challenge you to find 10 things around your house during these breaks. Okay, now this is quite fun. So the first one is get yourself a cup of tea, glass of water, whatever it may be. Bring it back with you. I want you to find a clothes peg. I want you to find some cash or some coins. Your car keys. If you don't have a car, find your house keys. I always can't find them. Something someone made for you, bring that along. And then I want you to find a pair of clean socks. Then also maybe a book or a magazine that has been sitting there for the last few months that you've not managed to get to, because not all of us have had the chance to have furlough. So there's probably a book sitting there that you've been meaning to read. Can you find a calculator? Can you find a vegetable? Can you find a photograph? And finally, can you find the tech to upload it to your chat? And you can do this just now, and you can do it in the next session. So we'll see you back here at 10:45 with as many of those things as you can find. And thank you very much to our speakers and to Alex for the last session. We'll see you shortly.